Alpha Fam Coach Sham here with another market update. Before I begin, I do want to say that nothing in these videos is financial advice. Everything's for educational purposes only. It's just my own analysis on the market. Also, if you're new to the channel, if you could please give us a like, comment, and a subscribe. We really do appreciate the support. So let's get into the market, guys. So whenever you have one of these very aggressive moves, and I did get to make a video or an update yesterday, guys, because I was in the middle of handling some personal stuff. And I was watching the market very closely, and I just knew it. I had an idea or a feeling. I said, whenever you move up as aggressively as we did, and you can see this was a major candle on Bitcoin. This is 9%. This is not a small candle on Bitcoin. Whenever you have a move like that, guys, naturally expect 50% of it to get retraced every time. And then another thing you could do is you look for things like fair value gaps. And this is one way to see if we are still kind of in a bullish momentum to the upside, or if this thing has got the potential chance to continue to roll down further. All right, guys? So you can see we've got a fair value gap right here. We're holding into the fair value gap pretty well. We don't want to disrespect the fair value gap. Typically, you want to hold the 50% level on these things, and you can actually see the 50% level held originally right here, and then that led us up. And then all of a sudden last night, guys, there was no news, no stories, no nothing. All of a sudden at 4 o'clock in the morning, we had this pull down. Why? Well, I think this is the time that the algorithm notices the lowest liquidity, and what it does is it pushes price down to sweep these buy orders that are left over. You have to understand, whenever you have a move this aggressive, there is a ton of liquidity that's left over down here. It just doesn't get filled. People are trying to fill in orders. People are trying to make buys. People are trying to open up positions, but there's so much volume that sometimes it just doesn't happen. So what the algorithm will do is it will wait for low liquidity conditions to come back down, sweep that liquidity before actually making the directional move up. Do I think we've made a local bottom where I think Bitcoin is now made a strong enough base to bring us to new highs? No, I don't. What I think we could do is we get a relief rally. And what this relief rally will most likely do is probably come into this 50-day EMA and maybe try to reclaim this level. Their $75,000 level to $80,000 level is pretty significant on Bitcoin right now. You can kind of see it. And this general zone is where I think we could drift up to before rejecting. And then once we reject, we'll probably come to the bottom of the zone again. And then we will, like I said the other day, create this range. And in this range, we're going to chop for probably the next 2, maybe 3 months, maybe 4, getting closer and closer to May. All right. And I keep talking about May because May is very important, guys. You have to understand what happens in May. Jerome Powell gets replaced. All right. When Jerome Powell gets replaced, I think we're going to see a massive amount of revigoration come back into this market. I think the market is going to price this event in prior, and I think the market is going to be very excited for that to happen. All right. So I can see us chopping in this range all the way until then. And then when we get out of this range, we'll probably be on the back of that event. All right, guys, because when Jerome Powell gets replaced, everybody's got it in their mind already that Trump's going to bring in his guy. He's going to come in to lower rates, continue doing quantitative easing. And that's the narrative that I think the market's going to run with. Something else that I think has been damaging the market over the last couple of days. So at first we were hearing Jane Street, all right? And that's all you heard just 2 or 3 days ago. Oh, Jane Street is getting sued. There's no more 10 a.m. manipulation. It's all over with. That's not true, guys, all right? I don't think, and I'm not saying that Jane Street wasn't potentially doing some insider trading. I'm not saying that they weren't, fudding things to allow them to profit. I'm not saying that they weren't turbo dumping in the morning. But I don't think it was the only thing that was driving this. Another thing I think was driving it was the Clarity Act. Look at this thing. You can see we made this peak, and then we came down. And then when we came back down, guys, you can see Bitcoin did the same thing. When we lost that momentum, we came back down. You can see how it did. It's pretty much been following this. You can see we came back down. And then yesterday or a couple days ago, now this thing went from being at 40 some odd percent to ripping all the way up to basically 69%, 67% now. It's a massive difference. And you can see the fluctuation of price action. You can see what it's did. All right. I think the Clarity Act is very important for crypto. And I think this will also, on top of, so these are the two narratives I'm kind of looking at right now to really help crypto break out of this range and start its next bull run. All right. One being the Clarity Act. All right. I think that getting passed will make a massive green candle on crypto that day, because it's going to allow the final piece for market structure. And you have to understand, not everybody can buy crypto right now, guys. There's still a lot of institutions and different entities that are not able to buy crypto or able to participate until this is actually done. All right, guys? Then you have to understand, with Jerome Powell being replaced, these two events, Clarity Act and, getting passed, and let's say, because I think they have to make a decision on this, I think it's March 1st or April 1st. I'll double check. But that also, let's say it's April 1st. All right. What happens next month? Jerome Powell gets replaced. All right. So we chop in this zone for the next couple of months, waiting for these two things to happen. The Clarity Act, and I think at some point they will try to do a spring, and it would make sense if they're going to try to do it, it would potentially be before both of these events. And we don't necessarily have to do it. Again, this could have been our spring. Technically speaking, this could have been our spring. This could have been our retest. All right, guys? And what we could be doing is just being inside of this range. And as this thing just kind of chops, once we get close to those events, Clarity Act gets passed, Jerome Powell's getting replaced, boom. This is what actually results in the move up. All right, guys? So with that, we always want to watch TradFi markets. You guys hear me talk about this all the time. You have to watch the TradFi markets. They have been showing me a lot of weakness. All right? And this is not good. And the reason I say that is, you can see, actually, Tuesday and Wednesday, we had 2 good days. All right? This thing pushed us back above the 50. I was like, okay, maybe we're starting to show some strength. All right? And you can see right here, 2 ways you can look at this. One, this thing is starting to make lower highs. All right? That's not necessarily a good sign, but it is making higher lows right here. So what I'm hoping is this was just a retest of the bottom of this range, and this thing continues to go up. We need this thing to break out of this range. All right, guys? We need it to break out of here, because I've said it several times. If it don't, this thing is starting to remind me of a distro, and then what happens with a distro is it distributes, it pushes down, and that would be devastating for the broader stock market currently right now to go through a 10-15% corrective. With crypto already where it's at, I think this would bring Bitcoin probably down close to the 50% level. All right, guys? It just simply would. If the broader stock market goes through a correction, it's going to tear crypto down with it. All right, guys? And this could also be something that you can look out for as an opportunity if you're building positions during the bear market, guys. This is why I always talk about limit orders. All right? With that, we're going to look at NASDAQ. It did the same thing. Made this move up. I thought it was going to reclaim the 50. It did for just a day. Dump back down. S&P 500 is the one thing that is currently still showing me a bit of strength. All right, guys? And the reason why, you can see 2 days moved up. Now we're obviously having to wait for the U.S. market open today, but you can see it came to the 50, sucked up that liquidity, and pushed up. We need this thing to break out of this range. All right? And again, guys, you got to build a base. So when things break to the upside, typically to get a really good expansive move, it's after they've created and built a base. So that's what this thing could be, in fact, doing right here, is building up a base to do the breakout. But equally, what it could be doing is getting ready to distribute, because you have to think, guys, we haven't had a major correction in the stock market since last February. Seriously, last February. That's when the last stock market correction happened. And doesn't that look pretty similar? Like this thing made this massive move up, does this correction, and then you can see when it did its correction, what did crypto do? It was correcting as well. It's going to correlate with each other, guys. Keep that in mind. So knowing that and understanding that, all right, what you can be doing in order to take advantage of this is, like I've said before, limit orders. Set limit orders. Even in places that you don't think. Like, for instance, if you want to buy Bitcoin, I would personally be setting limit orders between 50 and 55,000. I think this general area will eventually get smacked. And once it gets hit, guys, all right, and if you can set up limit orders in that general area, I would be doing a bulk of them at 55, because I do think that that level gets hit. But I would also be putting some down at the 50, just to see, because you would be surprised at sometimes how these wicks will happen. And they're going to be fast. It's not going to be something where it's going to be down there for 6 hours and you're going to have all this time to make a decision. No, it's going to be fast. It's going to be violent. It's going to be a quick wick down. It's going to suck up that liquidity, because there's not going to be the only, trust me, we're not the only people talking about setting up limit orders, guys. There's massive amounts of liquidity that is already set up by institutions, exchanges, market makers, and whatnot at these levels. So that's a big reason why they drive prices down to those levels, because they know that there's already the liquidity down there waiting to get snagged up. Understand how liquidity works, guys. You have to understand the market is always going to go for the liquidity. It's going to sweep the liquidity that it's closest to first before going back up and reversing in the opposite direction to sweep the liquidity to the upside. Same thing goes for these bears, guys. These bears, I'm telling you, because I'm a perma bull on crypto, but I understand cycles and I understand price action. So even though I am bullish on the industry for, the long term, I understand where we're at in the cycle right now, but it's not going to be easy for the bears. There's going to be several times over the next course of the couple of months where their conviction is going to be really, really put to the test as well, where they're even going to say, well, damn, maybe I was wrong, and maybe we aren't in a bear market, and actually maybe this was just a big, massive trap. And then this is where their conviction will be, tested, guys. Always remember that. And again, if it's the first time you've ever found any of my content, my name's Coach Jam. I've been a digital asset investor for over 5 years now. I am the founder of Alpha Syndicate and also host all of the Crypto Talk workshops inside of Capital Club. And if you want to learn this stuff, guys, how we incorporate all these things together, how we incorporate the macro, the fundamentals, the technical analysis to help give us an edge on the market. If you want a place that you can get coached, mentored, be able to network with other entrepreneurs, traders, click the link below, guys. We'll see you inside.